She thought she was just buying a meal for a hungry child, never imagining the man watching quietly from the corner booth was a billionaire ready to change her entire life. The evening rush had died down at Gracie's diner, leaving only the hum of the coffee machine and the faint chatter of a few lingering customers. Emily Carter, 24, wiped down the last table, exhaustion pulling at her muscles. She was working a double shift again, saving every penny she could to keep her mother's medicine stocked and the rent from falling overdue. Just as she was about to lock the front door, the small bell above it jingled. A little boy, maybe 7 years old, stood shivering in the entrance. Torn hoodie, barefoot, eyes wide and hollow from hunger. Emily's heart twisted immediately. Behind her, sitting unnoticed in the corner booth, Jonathan Hale, 38, billionaire entrepreneur disguised in jeans and a baseball cap, sipped black coffee. He was there escaping meetings, decisions, people who wanted things from him. But now, he was watching a moment that wasn't staged, wasn't fake, was real. Emily knelt down to the boy's level. "Hey, sweetie, you lost?" The boy shook his head, too embarrassed to speak. Emily glanced toward the kitchen, then pulled out her own worn wallet, counting her crumpled tips from the day. She didn't even hesitate. "Come on," she smiled warmly. "Let's get you something warm, yeah?" She led him to a booth, bundled him in an extra apron to stop his shivering, and brought out a plate of pancakes, eggs, and bacon. The works. Paid for out of her own pocket. Jonathan watched silently. No cameras, no audience, no expectations. Just a young woman choosing kindness over comfort. And in that instant, he knew. This wasn't a small act. It was everything he had forgotten mattered. And what Emily didn't know? Was that the man quietly watching her would soon turn her simple kindness into a future brighter than anything she ever dared dream. Jonathan Hale stayed seated, watching every detail. The way Emily knelt beside the boy to make sure he didn't feel out of place. The way she brought him extra syrup with a wink, like he was the most important guest in the diner. The way she shielded him from curious glances from the few remaining customers. She wasn't doing it for praise. She wasn't doing it for tips. She was doing it because she cared. After the boy had eaten, Emily packed up an extra sandwich and slipped a worn $5 bill into his little backpack. "Just in case you get hungry later, okay?" she whispered. The boy's eyes shimmered with tears, but he only nodded, clutching the sandwich like a treasure. A local shelter volunteer, alerted by a phone call Emily had quietly made earlier, arrived to pick him up and make sure he had a place to sleep that night. As the door swung closed behind them, Emily finally let herself sag against the counter. Tired, broke, but somehow smiling. Because tonight, she had done something that mattered. Jonathan left a crisp $20 on the table for his coffee, but he didn't leave. He walked slowly to the counter, pulling his cap lower over his face. "Rough night?" he asked casually. Emily laughed softly, brushing a stray hair from her face. "You could say that, but worth it." "You always do that?" he asked, pretending to fiddle with his wallet. "Feed people who can't pay." Emily shrugged. "Not always. Wish I could more. Just can't walk away when someone needs help, you know?" Jonathan nodded thoughtfully. "More than you realize." He handed her his bill, folded around something thicker, and headed out into the cool night before she could even open it. Confused, Emily unfolded the slip. Inside wasn't a few extra bucks. It was a personal card, elegant, simple. Jonathan Hale, founder, Hale Industries, and scrawled beneath it in clean, confident handwriting. "You're exactly the kind of person this world needs more of. Call me tomorrow. Let's talk about changing your life." Emily's breath caught. She looked toward the door, but he was already gone, leaving behind nothing but a card. and a future that had just cracked wide open because of one meal given without expectation. And tomorrow? Everything she thought she knew about her world would never be the same again. The next morning, Emily sat at her tiny kitchen table, staring at the elegant business card like it might disappear if she blinked. Her stomach twisted with nerves. "It's probably a joke," she muttered to herself. "Some rich guy being polite." But a part of her, a part that had always believed kindness mattered, told her to dial the number anyway. With trembling fingers, she called. The line picked up on the first ring. "Emily Carter?" a calm voice said. Yes," she stammered. "Mr. Hale has been expecting you. Could you come downtown today? He would like to meet properly." Emily's heart hammered in her chest. I don't have anything fancy to wear." "Just bring yourself," the assistant said warmly. That's all he asked for. 2 hours later, Emily stood in the shimmering glass lobby of Hale Industries, a world away from sticky diner booths and late-night shifts. Jonathan Hale greeted her himself. No suits, no cold boardroom attitude. Just that same easy smile and a handshake that felt genuine. He led her to a small, sunlit conference room and gestured for her to sit. "I meant every word I wrote, Emily," he said. "The world is full of people who chase profits. I'm looking for people who still believe in people." He pulled out a folder and slid it across the table. Inside was a job offer. Not just any job. A salaried position in Hale Foundation's Community Outreach Division, helping to build programs that supported underprivileged children and struggling families. Full benefits. College support for future degrees. A real career built on the very heart Emily had shown in that diner. Emily sat back, overwhelmed. "I don't understand. Why me?" Jonathan leaned forward, his voice kind. "Because you gave everything you had to a child you didn't even know. You didn't wait for applause. You didn't ask for recognition. You just did it. That's the kind of spirit I want running this world." Tears filled Emily's eyes, but this time they weren't from exhaustion or fear. They were from the realization that one simple act of kindness had just opened a door she never even dared to knock on. And through that door lay a future bigger and brighter than she had ever imagined. Weeks later, Emily Carter walked through the halls of the Hale Foundation with a new badge clipped to her jacket. Not a waitress, not just a struggling daughter fighting to stay afloat, but a leader. A woman trusted to design programs that made sure no child would feel invisible again. She threw herself into the work, traveling to shelters, schools, and food banks, using her salary not for luxury, but for good. Every project she touched carried a piece of her soul. Hot meal programs for homeless youth, scholarships for kids who dreamed bigger than their circumstances, emergency housing for struggling single parents. Every time she saw a hungry child, every time she saw a tired parent holding it together with hope and duct tape, she remembered that little boy in the diner, and she remembered that sometimes the biggest miracles begin with one plate of pancakes paid for out of a tired waitress's tip jar. As for Jonathan Hale, he became her mentor, her biggest supporter, the man who quietly reminded her at every board meeting. Stay true to the girl who bought the meal. And she did, not because she had to, but because kindness was never her strategy. It was her nature. In the lobby of the Hale Foundation headquarters today, there's a framed photo, a simple black and white snapshot. Emily handing a plate of pancakes to a barefoot boy in a diner booth. No grand speeches, no fanfare, just quiet goodness captured forever. The plaque underneath reads, "The smallest acts of kindness often unlock the biggest doors." Because in a world obsessed with power and wealth, it was a tired waitress's heart that changed everything.